Here's my review of The White Lotus Season 3. Personally, I think that this was my favorite season of the entire show. Because I thought it just had the most interesting characters and the best setting. And what makes it, and like a show like this that is, it's labeled as an anthology, which I don't get. I mean, technically, each episode, it is this overarching story that just gets wrapped up in one season. But even each season, still, it's not like it's that other season didn't happen and they even talk about that. But anyways, what makes this season in particular so great is just all these different characters. Because, I mean, if you've seen the show, I mean, I'm already talking about season 3, and I assume if you're watching this, you've probably seen the show, or at least know what it's about. Basically, more of that satire, like eat the rich vibe, satire, but also with these mysteries and this overall dark tone. But it's really just the characters and their stories that I just found so compelling, and what I thought that this season, which is made so good just because not only the beautiful, gorgeous setting, but just all the themes and the characters are just all so fascinating. And that's really what I'm going to talk about here, because like it's not like you're explaining a plot, because there's several different ones. So I'm going to be talking about all the different characters. First, we got the Ratliff family of Tim, Victoria, Lachlan, Saxon, and Piper. This rich family, and they're very interesting too, especially oh god. Lachlan, oh my god. If you've seen the show, you know like this kid, Lachlan. Okay, I'm not even really gonna get it. I really am not gonna get into his story in particular. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like, I know that this show is dark, but it's like that I'm just not gonna get into. It's messed up. If you've seen it, you know. But there's all just so fascinating. They're kind of all just terrible people, and that's what's so interesting. And especially when we're talking about Tim, the dad here. Because right off the bat, in like the very first episode, we learn about this huge legal battle that he's in, that he's going to probably lose all his money, and he's probably going to get arrested when he gets back from Thailand. So over the course of this whole season, he's just slowly like snapping. You could just see his descent into madness, and that was just so fascinating. And that's what I just liked, is just all these different characters, seeing their stories unravel. It was just so fascinating to see, because this is a man, he clearly cares about his family, but at the same time, I mean, towards the end of the season, he straight up just like snaps, and I'm going to get into full spoilers. First, I'm going to get into Piper's storyline, though, where she has this whole storyline of where they're only there for like a school trip, or not a school trip. They're only there so she could write like her thesis, but then she basically lies about it, and then she wants to convert to Buddhism, and there's this whole subplot, and the mom clearly does not want her to do that, and she even tries it out for a day, and she says like, oh, it's horrible, and the mom is really happy, and the dad's actually kind of disappointed. But it's just so fascinating just to see like these characters just break, because it really does just play into the satire. It's like, yeah, you're rich, you can't live without money, because she experienced just a day of it, she hated it. It's just fascinating. And with Tim here, like I said, I got so much stuff I need to cover, so I'm just going to wrap up their story real quick. Over the course of the season, he's obviously slowly snapping. And eventually he has a plan. Like I said, spoilers for everything. Eventually he has a plan where he realizes, you know what, we're just going to be poor. He just legit snaps. And he has a plan to just poison and kill his entire family. That's how dark it gets. And what makes it even more messed up is at a certain point, he slaps the drink out of his son's mouth, out of all his kids, and he's like, you know what, never mind, we don't need it, let's go. But then his youngest son of Lachlan, he drinks it, and then he dies, and then that's the end of their story. It's just messed up. Like, this whole show is just, well, technically, well, split second, I forgot. He doesn't actually die. No, they end up being able to resuscitate him, and then they're kind of leaving. And then I think that really just wakes him up, though, of just like how far he's come. Because I say, no, he actually doesn't die. He like almost dies. He gets poisoned, but he like vomits and stuff. But just this whole storyline, this whole family is just so messed up. Okay, now on to the other characters. Then we got Rick in Chelsea, where Rick is played by Walton Goggins, and he's probably by far the most interesting character in this whole show. I love Walton Goggins. And over the course, we eventually find out the only reason he wants to go to Thailand is basically to hunt down the man who he believes killed his father. And Rick is just such an interesting character that this whole time, like, he's another character, like, he's slowly just snapping, and you could tell, like, And you could understand from his perspective, he eventually just has a plan to just find his father's killer and kill him. And it gets another one where it just gets so dark, but just also fascinating. And just the scene where Chelsea wants him to go to therapy and try it out because of how stressed he's been. And just the whole scene is just so beautiful. Like, I just loved it. And that's what makes the show so good. Like, I've seen some people saying that this was the worst season. I personally found it to be the best because I found every single character just so fascinating. And just this little therapy session that Rick has, I was just so invested. And I just wanted to learn about all these characters. And it's just his relationship, and then his girlfriend. I mean, Chelsea, she's not as interesting, but Rick, like, she's not bad, but Rick is really just what holds this storyline together because he's just so fascinating. And the scene where he basically just like is on drugs and goes into Thailand, just lets out all the snakes, and then Chelsea gets bit and they have to rush her to a hospital. It's just hilarious. This episode is great. I mean, the whole show I found to be just great. This season was just fantastic, at least in my opinion. But this was just such a funny episode. And oh my God, Sam Rockwell, the scene with Sam Rockwell. If you've seen the show, if you've seen it, you know what this is. I'm not going to get into it, but just what Sam Rockwell's character explains why he's in Thailand, why he loves it. It's just hilarious. It gets so funny and just so weird and dark. I can't. Like, I'm not going to explain the whole thing. If you've seen it, you'll know it, but I love this storyline. And that also feeds into a whole other storyline where he eventually finds out the man who he thinks kills his father, and he just snaps and kills him, and then he finds out that that was his father. And it's just like, wow, that really did shock me. I was just in shock during that. I couldn't believe it. And that was just great. It's just like a great twist. And then the end of his story is just, he also accidentally shoots Chelsea, and then they both are killed and just fall in the river. It's just, that's the end. It's just crazy, in my opinion. It was just a very compelling, because Rick as a character was just so compelling. Part of me is really disappointed because I'm like, even though I know this is an anthology series, but like each season is going to be something new, I would really like to see this character again, just to learn more about him. But he was great. Walton Goggins is just fantastic. And like I said, just this therapy session, I just loved it. It just shows how good that this show is and just HBO is with its characters. Except for maybe The Last of Us season 3 or season 2. But anyways, with White Lotus season 3, just all the characters I just found so compelling. Especially just like this therapy scene of when Rick is talking to this therapist and doing this yoga. I loved it. It was great. And then we got the three friends of Lori, Jacqueline, and Kate. And this is just a classic, like, almost toxicity between these three middle-aged women where basically they're having a midlife crisis. And their story is also just great. It just, this toxic relationship is so fascinating. Whether it is that they're just like, oh, we're young, we can still have fun, and then maybe they're trying to get with other men because they're divorced. It's just, that's all just so fascinating and compelling. At least I found it to be. But you could slowly see almost the cracks in their relationship slowly go as, like, especially when they maybe express different views, whether like ideology or political views. Just the tension is just slowly just brewing between these characters. But that's what makes it so good, is all these characters, even though every single character on the show, or at least these visitors, the guests, are just so snobby, they're just all so compelling. And even if they're not necessarily likable, they're just characters you want to learn about and spend time with. Although I will say, although I like the storyline, I would say it was my least favorite of the storylines, although it was still pretty good. And then we got a storyline with Belinda from the previous season. Basically, she's basically on a, her storyline, I got to get through this quick because I only got a minute left. She basically feels like she's entitled to a lot of money because she finds a guy who killed, what's-her-face, Jennifer Coolidge's character in the last season, who promised her a lot of money, and her son's there. And that storyline I found compelling too, and just, she's a great character. I really liked her character and her story. It was very interesting to me. And also we got Gayutak and Mook's storyline. I found it to be great. Just this simple relationship between these two workers, and it doesn't really even have anything to do with the rest of the show, but these characters are just so compelling that I thought it was great. And finally, I just want to talk about the cinematography. All these episodes are beautiful. And just seeing the Thai culture from the masks to the dance, all the agriculture was just phenomenal. So yeah, personally, this was my favorite season of the show so far. I thought it was great. I really found all the characters to be very interesting. This just got really dark, but really fascinating. Beautiful cinematography, very interesting characters, and great writing, at least in my opinion. I really liked it. Best season.